Hello, everybody, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live for August 10th, 2020. I'm Gray Sidney Smith, and I'm president of W3 Consulting and managing director of W3C Web Services. And that's our WordPress and web hosting and domain registration service for small business. So welcome everybody to Web and Beyond Live. This is my weekly opportunity to talk to you about small business news related to marketing, digital marketing, and all kinds of other things related to productivity technologies in the world of small business. And so today I wanted to talk about what's new at Google and do our July 2020. I'm going to have a little bit of change to that because I'm going to actually transition that over to the new podcast or the continuation of the old podcast. But first, what I'm going to do is go into the small business news this week. There's a lot going on, and then I will do my redacted version of what's new at Google for July 2020. And so with that, let's get started with the news this week. So top of the list, the biggest thing going on right now is related to TikTok. And while I would wait for this news to be in my social media episode for the month, which will be next week, I just couldn't wait because it's such a big and interesting story, and I have so many thoughts about it. So what's happening is as I mentioned last week, the White House and the president have been talking about really, in essence, blocking TikTok in the United States, banning them as they're calling it. Of course, this is somewhat of a ridiculous notion, but in reality, here we are. The president is working to prohibit transactions through ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok, and so he has signed an executive order that'll block all transactions with ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent corporation, as I said, and really putting this through an information and communications technology security risk perspective lens there. It's a 45-day order, and this, of course, is in line with the political perspective of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and others who have been calling for TikTok to be limited as a mechanism for national security protections against China, and that what they think is going on is that China is utilizing TikTok and other companies to go ahead and access American information, data about Americans, with really no public information, being known that's actually the truth. TikTok, on the flip side, went ahead and started conversations with Microsoft about being purchased by Microsoft. Microsoft is in a good cash position to be able to do that. We're talking billions of dollars that they were offering to TikTok in their preliminary negotiations. And this is equally shocking to me, as I said last week, because I just don't know what the reason would be for Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, to think even that TikTok would fit into the Microsoft ecosystem. But, who am I? So in line with that, as of just a couple days ago, TikTok now has intimated that they are going to sue the White House over the ban. That is, that they didn't give the company ByteDance an opportunity to respond to the executive order, and therefore, there's an illegitimate, ban being placed on them. So they're going to file this in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of California, supposedly on Tuesday morning, which would be tomorrow morning, and it's really quite just strange. Now, in line with all of this, then, TikTok has come out, Wall Street Journal has come out with a story about TikTok and Twitter potentially having held preliminary discussions to merge the two companies. That is, Twitter and TikTok would combine into one company. Now, I can see that as a much more practical solution to the overall problem, that is ByteDance giving TikTok over to Twitter for some probably very large sum of money. And the real problem there, of course, is that Twitter itself is not in the best financial to take over TikTok, but I would imagine that there would be investor dollars that would flow very easily to TikTok for those purposes. So we'll see. I mean, it's just a remarkable situation to be in, where we see this, uh, just a strange situation, because the president and the White House are in a place where they are really posturing in this trade war with China, and it is impacting a lot of businesses who are utilizing TikTok as a mechanism for getting in front of Gen Z and younger generations. This is probably one of my reasons for avoiding TikTok to date as a recommendation for those going after younger generations. I still think that Snapchat is probably the better place, along with Instagram and Facebook. You still have those generations who are utilizing those tools, or not utilizing them, say, as much as, say, Snapchat or TikTok. But the reality is that you should then look at who you can get in front of in terms of the dollars, right? Who's spending the money? Is it actually that generation, or are you trying to get in front of the parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, and other people who are purchasing on those generations' behalf, right? Younger generations need to be engaged in the understanding that a product exists, but the reality is that you need to be getting your message in front of the people who actually hold the purse strings. And more young people are and do have that, because they have their mom or dad's credit card information in their phone, and parents have given some authority for them to be able to spend money on them. But still, there's quite a bit of power still in that. Now, in line with that, Tencent, which you may not have heard before, but Tencent owns the company WeChat, which is one of the largest messaging apps. It's a payment portal, it's a messaging app, it's all kinds of things bundled into one. It's kind of a social messaging app with all of these various functionalities built into it. But WeChat was also part of the executive order that was being blocked, and so they're being impacted as well. So this is not specifically on TikTok. Part of the thing about all of this that I find remarkable, though, is that because this is happening in such a public way, TikTok may actually get the boost to being more mainstream than not, just because of this kind of harassment that's coming out of the White House administration. So I'm curious. I'll keep watching. Right now, I'm still on the sidelines. I've been perusing TikTok here and there to see what it's all about, and to see how businesses are utilizing it, and looking at the TikTok marketing strategies that are being used at the present moment. If you're gung ho and hyper tech savvy and very friendly to video, go for it. But for the rest of us, I would suggest just holding the reins, because this could all collapse on TikTok. There's been a lot of global investment dollars put into TikTok to make it what it is today, and it's just a possibility that it'll all go for naught if the United States has its way in terms of foreign policy to really do some damage to them in this process of the trade war with China. So, that being said, let's move along to some unfortunate kind of news. This is all related, of course, to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we are still in the midst of the pandemic. I'm sure I didn't need to tell you that, but the first lawsuits are being filed against businesses for worker deaths by the families of those victims. So unfortunately, we are in a state where certain people believe that they do or don't need to do as much to protect their staff, to protect their customers coming into their retail stores or coming into contact with the business generally. This is the shot across the bow that we all need to be doing as much as possible to make sure that we are, making ourselves litigation proof. I mean, that's just a reality of it. You need to mitigate the risk factors for the business, along with just as a moral and ethical compass issue, to make sure that your staff are safe. And I'm gonna call it. This is the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see a wave of new lawsuits against employers for negligence, gross negligence, which is the legal term, and for other instigating risks that have been created, some downstream risks that have been created by virtue of not doing enough to protect them in their work environments, making unsafe work environments. We think about this from the perspective that if you had a door handle that was broken and someone injured themselves at work because that door handle was broken and the employer knew about it, they should have fixed it, or slippery floors in a restaurant, things of that nature, we're very aware of the risk of doing that. We put up do not, walk here signs, walk carefully on this wet floor. We put it in English and Spanish and all these other kinds of things. We do all of this, but for some reason, there is a respiratory, transmitted pandemic happening, and some business owners just don't think that they're going to have liability for protecting their employees and customers. This is the wake-up call that we all need to be paying attention to those issues. Continuing on the unfortunate news, but news that I think is important and really is top of mind for me, which is that for many businesses, the reopening is not possible. I just recently pulled up a Bloomberg article that came across my desk, and they're talking about 1/3 of U.S. restaurants face permanent closure this year. That's just this year. And so I think probably a month or so back, I had quoted Yelp and their statistics about what they believed was going to happen in terms of either a quarter to a third of businesses were on their platform were impacted and going to be shutting down permanently. We're now seeing more and more associations. This was a restaurant consultancy called Aaron Allen and Associates. They provided a report to their to Bloomberg News, and in it they note that as many as 231,000 of the nation's roughly 660,000 restaurants will shut down just this year. And that's not to say that they won't fail in the subsequent year in 2021 and beyond. That's just remarkable. And we already have 8,000 restaurants, according to this report, that have already been closed, and so we're just going to see more and more of this happen, and it's just a bloodletting of small businesses, many of them that are small businesses. In line with that, I also noted from a LinkedIn news article that came across my screen as well, which talked about the fact that even when businesses reopen, we're still in negotiations in Congress over another stimulus and a relief bill that could potentially become law and help to stave off some of the economic damage. But unemployment is ending, and the White House has put out an executive order that may or may not even be able to be implemented according to law. And now what we're really seeing, though, is that the government relief measures are crucial, but that doesn't mean that after people reopen, they'll actually be able to survive because of the change in market dynamics. People are not going out there and partaking in retail environments as much as they were before, and their buying habits are changing so dramatically. And so this report was from Van City and the Canadian Urban Institute, and basically what they're saying is that even for the businesses that were able to connect with their customers and really overcome some of these obstacles, like the dramatic reduction or just expiration of foot traffic, once people come back and open up after this, just because of the protracted nature of the pandemic or the response to the pandemic, and yes, I am being critical of every government that has really done, other than New Zealand, every government has done a really poor job of managing this crisis by virtue of the fact that they're not working cohesively, not working together. I blame state governors, I blame the federal government, and I blame the global governance structures that are in place for not coordinating this in just a much more tight manner, and being clear about how to correctly bring us both to stop the spigot of the virus transmission, but then on the other side, how to reopen economically well. So here we are, and just some more really unfortunate news. And this just goes back to my point, though, that businesses need to be pivoting. They need to be thinking about how they can pivot to digital experiences, how they can pivot their products and services to a non-physical environment. And that doesn't mean that you can turn every business into those, but that means that you may need to now find a different product or service to sell in that environment. I'm not happy that that's the case, but that is the case. We are seeing the writing on the wall. Now many companies are putting out notices that they are extending their work from home policies through the summer of 2021. I think that was the latest company, big major companies that I've seen. They're pushing into 2021, into the summer of 2021. What does that mean for small business retail districts that depend upon those businesses to be open so that those employees who are coming in and out of those Main Street districts shop in those environments? It means that they're not going to get the same foot traffic. They're not going to get the same amount of sales per day. And that means that reopening does not mean survival. And so we need to be retooling and reinvesting in other areas. And those of us who help small businesses, especially in the economic development space, really need to be charging home that message to the small business owners. New entrepreneurs coming onto the market are already aware of this. I see almost every new business plan that crosses my desk is understanding of the fact that retail is going away in this period, at least for the near term, and how they're adapting to that experience. Very, very powerful stuff there. Okay, just a little bit more bad news, I think, and then and then I can switch gears to maybe some more positive news, and then we'll get into what's new at Google. So as you know, I fundamentally believe that digital marketing encompasses cybersecurity today, that you can't do one without the other. If you're doing digital marketing, you must be practicing good cybersecurity hygiene, cyber resilience. And so I try to keep everyone up to date just in light fashion about some of those things. Actually, in October, it is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and W3 Consulting is one of the champions for the National Cybersecurity Alliance. And so we're going to be doing a whole bunch of programs throughout the month of October on cybersecurity for small business. So I'm looking forward to really helping educate folks during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month about how to really protect yourself and your customers and your staff throughout this period where we're working virtually. But in that mindset, I, of course, pay attention to what's happening in the WordPress world because of W3C Web Services. And there have recently been 2 plugins among the many, that really need updating if you are running them. So if you have a WordPress website, which many of you do, the payment form for PayPal Pro plugin, that plugin, anything before version 1.1.65 is vulnerable to a type of attack. So just if you have the payment form for PayPal Pro plugin, go ahead and update it immediately, okay? While you're at it, update all of your plugins and themes and WordPress core while you're at it. The same thing goes if you are running WooCommerce subscriptions, which WooCommerce is the e-commerce plugin that runs e-commerce on a WordPress website, on many WordPress websites, and it's free open source software, and you can add on to it other plugins. You can add on additional functionality, and WooCommerce subscriptions is one of those plugins. It is also vulnerable to a type of attack, and so you need to go ahead and, for your customers' data security as well as yours, just go in and update that. So plugin version 2.6.3, you need to update your plugin to at least 2.6.3 so that you can make sure your user data is secure, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. I think that's enough negative news for this week, which takes us over to some really, really cool stuff. One, I want to just let folks know that today, August 10th through August 15th, starts the Podcast Global Summit. If you go to podfestexpo.online, online is the CCL, the TLD, the top level domain. But if you go to podcastfest.online, podcastexpo.online, correction, podfestexpo.online, expo.online, you'll be taken to the registration page. It is a free pass for you to attend the PodFest Global Summit happening over the next 5 or 6 days, 10 to 10:15, and they have their own app. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to actually set a Guinness World Records title for the largest attendance for a virtual podcast conference in 1 week. So I'm very excited for them, and you know that I'm putting out a book very soon called Podcasting for Small Business, and so you know that I believe in podcasting and believe that it's a fantastic platform for small business. And so this summit has a whole bunch of really interesting speakers talking about podcasting, and so check it out. It's free, and they're going to hopefully make this attempt and win the Guinness World Records title for largest attendance for a virtual podcasting conference in 1 week. Okay. With that news of the week out of the way, that brings us to what's new in Google for July 2020 through today. And there's some really important news regarding Google and what they've done. And what I am realizing is happening is that doing an entire episode for what's new at Google in the Web and Beyond Live probably isn't going to be as useful for me. So I'm going to actually transfer that to the Web and Beyond cast, the podcast that I'm restarting now. And we'll be putting out weekly. I'll be doing interviews with folks again and talking to economic development agencies and talking to business owners about what they're doing in their digital marketing world. So look out for that in your podcast apps. But what I'll do is I'll do the full-fledged what's new at Google episodes there once a month. And here I'm going to do the episode, but I'm only going to highlight maybe the top 4 or 5 stories as opposed to the 20 odd or 30 odd stories that culminate in that. Because of that, I also had to punt my discussion of really what's happening in social media trends and some of the e-commerce changes to next week. So I will be talking about that in next week's episode. I want to have a little bit of time to kind of expand upon that, and I know that this episode is already going to go a little bit long. So that being the case, just the quickest and top level what's new at Google announcements. First and foremost, Google Search is now allowing for free retail listings to be brought into Google Search. So at one point in time, you had the Google Merchant Center was free, and you could have your e-commerce feed put into it for free. Then Google started charging for it, and now they are going through the process of democratizing, so to speak, that component of it. So now you're able to go ahead and re-put your e-commerce feeds in there without having to pay Google Ads for them to list it and show it. This is really, really brilliant. And so if you are doing any level of e-commerce, you should absolutely be taking advantage of this. So just Google Merchant Center, find your product feed. If you don't have one, get one created. You're going to have to either talk to your developer or someone who is savvy enough to do that. If you have questions, go ahead and shoot me a message, and I can at least put you in the right direction. And then get that product feed listed. It's going to show it in Google Search to people who are searching for products out there in the market. So very, very powerful. Next up is related to Google Search and Google Shopping, and that is Google has put out a product called ShopLoop. This is a mobile video shopping platform, and it's an experiment. I'm going to say that it's probably DOA, that is dead on arrival, but who am I to say that it won't, for some reason, skyrocket? But what this really is a competitor to programs like Amazon Live, or if you're on Facebook, there is live shopping on Facebook, where in essence people are doing Facebook Live trunk shows, and they're doing what you would do to akin on Home Shopping Network or QVC or those kinds of things. They're now doing that in this application called ShopLoop, and so you're able to go on there and have this interactive shopping experience with influencers and so on and so forth. So you, as a business owner, can invest in ShopLoop in terms of really, pulling up the experience, recording video on mobile, showing people about how to do various things with your product, and it's a shopping opportunity for people. Right now, it's not monetized. So it's worth you checking out and figuring out how to use it and doing that. I have not gotten on the platform, but I just wanted to let you all know that it is there. And as soon as I learn more about it and its future, I'll let you know. The next thing I wanted to do was to talk about the YouTube most subscribed to channels for 2020, and I'll just bring this up on screen. Recently, the Digital Trends put out the top 10, and I just wanted to go over these so that you had an understanding about kind of what is going on in this world of YouTube channels and the categories of them and really what to pay attention to. So if we look at these from just a basic numbers perspective, we have here that the most subscribed to YouTube channels really fit into top level professional wrestling, DIY, and sports. If we could take professional wrestling and put that inside of the sports field, we have sports, we have DIY, and we have gaming. And then we have a little bit of stuff with Cocomelon nursery rhymes that's helping entertain children. Then PewDiePie, the unfortunately racist YouTuber who, he's, let's say he's an alleged racist, but he's put out a lot of controversial content over time, and there's that. But you can see that those top level YouTube channels are all related to things that are, for the most part, social and consumer oriented in nature. This tells me a couple of things. One is that there is a huge opportunity for the B2B space to get in on YouTube and do more there. Channels like mine, where I'm putting out content to be able to help business owners. The other side to this is that in the consumer space, there is a lot of content being put onto YouTube, and it is well within the kind of mind space of people to think of YouTube as purely a vehicle for marketing a product as a business, right? But remember that the general context of the person who is on YouTube is that they're looking for a couple of things: entertainment, they're looking for answers to things. And so we need to, as business owners, really think, especially small business owners, think, what is it that our product does in terms of providing entertainment on one level, or be entertaining on one level, while still persuading and informing people about the problems that are existing in their worlds. So this really helps drive home that point. I just wanted to highlight that Digital Trends top 10 for that reason. Okay, next up is YouTube is rolling out very aggressive privacy practices for children's videos. That is to say that if you have any content on your website that is focused on children, you are going to have to, one, make sure that you check that box off and make sure that people are aware that it is for children. At that point, several functions are going to be turned off in your YouTube channel that is appropriate for that audience. So you're just going to lose some functionality as it relates to how it works. But that also means that if you have content that is not for children, make sure you're not checking off that box. I tested it on a couple of videos just to see what happens, and really it just like shuts down all of these things, and it makes it, a little bit more of a lockdown environment for folks not to be able to interact with the videos as much. There's no advertising. Things are really turned off on the system for children's viewing. Now, this is all in light of the California Consumer Privacy Act and other, kind of global regulatory compliance that Google is just really trying to respond to that and get ahead of it a little bit. And just be aware that if you're targeting children, you do have some more limitations on the product, and you're seeing that come to pass in all of this. And last but not least, I wanted to just touch base on Google My Business. Google has done a slow to start, but they're really trying job at getting Google My Business really ramped up for and in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. But they have done a couple of things that they have provided in the interface that I think are really useful. And I'm going to flesh this out a little bit more in what's new at Google in the podcast this week. But I just wanted to touch base on this. They have now the ability for you to have a temporarily closed status on your Google My Business listings. They have a new COVID-19 post type. That is, if you want to let customers know about any changes that are because of COVID-19, you can go ahead and put these specialized updates as a post in the system, and those actually stay in their own category and stay prominent on your Google My Business listing. We have some new aspects of telehealth and COVID-19 links for supporting businesses in this process. So if your company works with a healthcare system, you'll notice that there are messages that are being displayed, and so Google has responded to this by allowing healthcare systems, healthcare agencies to be able to put these prominent links for online care directly into the listing. And also that means getting information about COVID-19 without needing to visit a specific medical facility for that information. So if you are in the healthcare space and you have a Google My Business listing, this is going to give you and provide you that kind of functionality. And then last but not least is the ability for you to have support and donation links, so that if you do have to shut down, you now have the ability for folks to buy a gift card, to donate to a GoFundMe or another crowdfunding platform or donation platform for those bricks and mortar businesses or brick and mortar businesses that are fighting in this economic downturn. So just good for them to be able to provide these other benefits. There's several other updates that are being made, and I'm going to talk about those, like I said, in the podcast episode, so that we can, of course, keep these episodes to be as short as possible. And what that really means, though, is that we've come to the end of our time together for this week. If you've enjoyed the live stream, feel free to hit the thumbs up button. That helps us bring new small business friends to the fold, to the Web and Beyond Live. And so thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me here every week, Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern US. And if we do change the time for any reason, I will let you know on social channels. I'll comment on the events and let you all know. If you have a question, feel free to come back here next week and ask me. If not, you can leave a comment on the video and I'll see them, or someone on my staff will see them. And then you can always tweet or message me on Twitter at W3 Consulting. So W3 Consulting. I am a Twitter fan. I'm a tweeple. And so, thanks so much for spending this Web and Beyond Live with me. I'm Ray Sidney Smith on behalf of W3 Consulting and W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead, marketing and managing your business on the Web and Beyond. Take care, everybody.